And it is Carco and Carne, sponsored by C&H Financial Services. As business owners open back up to serve their communities, they're faced with a lot of challenges as they navigate through the new normal brought on by the coronavirus. C&H Financial Services is here to help. C&H offers a variety of products that range from traditional merchant accounts to a zero-cost payment processing solution, which eliminates the expense associated with accepting Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and American Express as a form of customer payment. C&H Financial Services eTap solution is easy to set up for your business for online ordering and curbside pickup. C&H also offers cost-effective commercial lending programs to help get your business the money it needs to make it through these unprecedented times. To learn more, contact C&H Financial Services at 855-600-2437 or go to www.chfs.us. My guest today, his work in movies, television, and theater have deservedly racked up awards and recognition through the years. Of course, actor Michael Shannon is probably best known for his performance in the Local H video for Innocence. Michael Shannon, how are you holding up? Are you doing okay? Are you and your family all right in the pandemic age?
Well, like I'm fond of saying, on the spectrum of possible misfortune, we're on the lowest end possible. I mean, there are all kinds of nasty things going on out there, and we've managed to avoid pretty much all of them. You know, the only problem I have is that I can't work, which I miss a bit, but other than that, it's pretty okay.
Yeah, the timing, it's so weird. The Quarry was a victim of COVID-19.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but it got out there, and people got to see it. You know, it was going to premiere at the South by Southwest Festival in Austin, and we were all looking forward to that a great deal, particularly because my friend Jeff Nichols lives in Austin, so I was going to get to see him. But, you know, like I say, there are a lot worse things that people have been experiencing than you know, missing a film festival. So I have to consider myself pretty lucky.
As I pre-promoted the fact that you were going to do this show, I realized your work, your roles strike people in different ways. There's not a consensus role that people gravitate to. I imagine you're going to be here, and here's just a sampling of what I saw. He was incredible in Waco, gave a hell of a performance as Elvis. Bug was creepy and amazing. Revolutionary Road, Jesus. Man of Steel, loved General Zod. Nocturnal Animals was his best. He was great doing the Pixies in the lip sync battle, and the Cunt Punch video was a tour de force. That's just the way that people respond when they see your name. It's a variety of opinions, and you strike them all in different ways.
Yeah, you know, it kind of makes my head spin when I hear that list to think that I actually did all that. Because now I'm very much just kind of loafing around my house. It's a kind of a different mindset, I guess. But yeah, it's amazing how much you can squeeze into one short little life. Yeah.
Well, I was concerned for you. I was worried about you because I think, was it last year you were only in one movie?
Yeah, well, I've made kind of a agreement with myself to try and spend more time at home with my family. I have these two ridiculously adorable daughters, and I really love to spend time with them. And unfortunately, when I work, it usually takes me away from home. So that's actually one of the silver linings of this whole COVID-19 situation, is that we're getting to spend a lot of time together. So yeah, no, there's no, I can understand being troubled by that, the quantity of last year, but there's nothing going wrong. At least I hope.
I mean, to be fair, the movie that you were in last year was Knives Out, which was spectacular.
Yeah, that's boy, that was fortuitous. I had no idea. I just thought Ryan was a lovely guy, Ryan Johnson, and it seemed like something fun to do. I don't think any of us saw the success coming that it had, but I guess it just goes to show that people still appreciate you know, an original kind of grown up kind of comedy, whodunit kind of movie, that they don't all have to be. You know, it's funny, you got a movie with James Bond and Captain America in it, and yet they're both getting to do something a little different, and I think people enjoyed seeing that.
Yeah, I grew up on Clue, so Knives Out was like,
yeah, but you know, it's amazing because, like, I know the whodunit isn't like a new genre or anything, but like nowadays, mostly if you're going to see one, it's going to be like Kenneth Branagh remaking Murder on the Orient Express. But to really just think one up from whole cloth, you know, you haven't seen somebody do that in a while. So I really admired him for doing it.
So I mentioned all the different roles that people responded to, and I posted about it. For me, one of my favorite Michael Shannon roles was Colonel Strickland in Shape of Water.
Oh, thanks.
In this fantastical world, this character was familiar to me. Just this bullying son of a bitch, this bad dude. And he just connected with me. That scene in the bathroom where you're taking a leak hands free just left a mark on me. To me, you should have won, if not an award, at least like a high five or like a fist bump for your role in that one.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, you know, the way I looked at it is, you know, Strickland represented kind of America, or the dark side of the American psyche. Certainly a lot of what you're seeing right now, you know, these attitudes when it comes to, you know, immigration and race and things like that. These officers putting their knee on people, you know, Strickland is kind of the embodiment of that, whatever that toxic crap it is floating around this country's head. You know.
So you've worked with a lot of visionary directors, but staying on Shape of Water for a minute, for those of us on the outside, for those of us who are not in film, just the idea, the being of Guillermo del Toro seems magical. Outside. What was it like playing in his sandbox?
Oh, you know, I could have pinched myself every day. You know, it's just some funnest times I've had at work. You know, I'd say him, and I felt that way when I worked with John Waters. You know, people that had these imaginations. It's like you know, it's like going to a theme park every day. You know, and seeing the sets that got built. A lot of that was built and so carefully detailed, and Guillermo's so fastidious about everything, down to the colors and every surface, every little prop. You know, he just has an eagle eye for detail, and he's just so funny when he's happy. You know, if he gets upset, or you know, he can be pretty demanding, but most of the time he's just really lovely to be around.
Staying on that general role for a second, I think a lot of us love seeing you in a sinister role. I don't know if we want to see you in a wholesome part. We love you just being maniacal and intense.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, you know, I didn't have any designs to be any particular kind of actor, or, you know, and for a while, when I started to hear that my work was kind of being categorized a certain way, you know, I think any actor could be a little irritated by that, because you just want, you know, people to realize that you can, you know, do anything because you're just such a genius or whatever. But after a while, you start to realize, you know, it really doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, I get a job, I can work, and I can pay my bills, and I should just keep my mouth shut. But I am in a position now where you know, it's okay to say no to certain things if they feel maybe a little repetitive or uninspiring. I can just say, I don't need to do that, and that's a real luxury.
It seems like it's fun to be you. Like the roles you're choosing, the appearances I see you making, you're living your best life, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the main hardship I'm experiencing right now is that I miss working. You know, I was 3 months ago, I was doing a movie in LA, and we didn't even finish. You know, they just pulled the plug and said go home, and that was 3 months ago, and here I am. And it's just a real trip. You know, I think everybody's going to come out of this understanding how lucky they were, you know, to have what they have, and hopefully everybody will get back. Hopefully people won't lose too many things and get back their lives. But it's really trippy.
It is. Let's talk a little bit about your relationship with Chicago. You talked about, the just the joy of being able to earn a living doing what you're doing. I've always sensed, and maybe I'm wrong, that you have that kind of Midwestern work ethic. I mean, Chicago's that town, roll up our sleeves, let's get to work, let's woodshed. It seems like that's your attitude.
Yeah, well,
is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I started out in Chicago theater, and for a long time, I mean, not that long, I guess. There's people that toil longer than I did, but for a while, I didn't make any money acting. I didn't make hardly any money doing anything. I hardly had any money, but I sure loved making theater, and I would devote like my whole life to it. I'd spend all day building a set for the show I was rehearsing that night. I'd be in the theater pretty much from the time I woke up till after rehearsal, and then head out for a pint or two, and then go to bed and do it again. And yeah, it's great. It's a great place, I think, Chicago, to learn how to work. It's a great theater town, always has been, but particularly in the 90s when I started out there, it's just an insane time. There's so much talent just radiating all over the place. So it was a real privilege to be a part of that.
When did A Red Orchid start? That was that same period, right?
That was 93, yeah. And that's the theater I spent those days in, days and nights. Yeah, and a lot of times you'd work like a dog, and you put on the show, and you'd be lucky if there were 10 people in the audience. But it really didn't matter to me. Honestly, I think if I hadn't had those experiences, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. So it all came back to me tenfold.
So you've been Chicago rock adjacent for the past few years. We've seen you on stage at the Sons of the Silent Age benefits, doing the full shirtless Iggy Pop, sinewy writhing around on stage, doing Lust for Life. We've seen you as Lou Reed. Is that your era of music? Is that kind of 70s glam? Is that your jam?
I sure do love it. I mean, my taste for music's pretty voracious and expansive. I mean, music is probably my favorite thing. Certainly as an art form. I mean, I got records and CDs from all over the place. My favorite guy is Thelonious Monk, but yeah, I love rock and roll. I love Bowie and that era. I've got a lot of Bowie books. I mean, one of my daughters is even into Bowie. She learned how to play "Oh You Pretty Things" on the piano. So yeah, we're a big Bowie house. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Bowie album? I could talk Bowie with you all day. Just fair warning.
Oh, wow, that's tough too. What's interesting is I don't know why it took me so long to get around to this, but I just bought Diamond Dogs on vinyl like a week or two ago, and I put that on. That just blew my mind. I had no idea what that album was like. I mean, I know Diamond Dogs, I know Rebel Rebel, but all the other songs on that album are so trippy.
Sweet Thing Candidate, and then Sweet Thing Reprise on that's the mind blower for me.
Yeah. I only put it on the one time so far, but I think I might slide it on today later on. But my favorite one, gosh, it's so hard. I'll tell you, the one I probably listen to the most is Bowie at the Beeb, 2 CD set of all his BBC stuff.
Yeah, all that early 70s stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the real trippy stuff, like Man Who Sold the World, With the Circle, Superman, Signet Committee, all those weird songs. The Sun Machine's coming down. We're gonna have a party. I just I just love it.
And then when we saw you on the lip sync battle, you were doing the Pixies. I mean, I think we're similarly aged. I mean, for me, the Pixies were definitely one of those rites of passage bands,
Oh yeah.
transitioning from the 80s to the 90s.
No, I remember. I remember where I was when I did that. I never remember anything, but like I remember where I was when this happened. But I do remember where I was the first time I heard the Pixies. I had a friend, ironically named James Brown. This is my junior year of high school. And I was in his bedroom, and he said, "Dude, you gotta hear this record." And he put on Surfer Rosa, and it was just my brain just melted, you know. And that's something I've actually been doing in the lockdown quarantine here. Is I've been watching the Pixies concerts on YouTube because I never got to see them before Kim left.
Right.
For instance, and I love the new. I can't ever remember. Is it Paz? Is it the new baby?
Paz Lynch. Yeah, I'm not either.
But I love her too. And I saw that they just played on. They did a Tiny Desk set on NPR. That was really cool. But so anyway, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I mentioned the local age video at the beginning of this. I believe because of the way the entertainment business is right now, and it's kind of stalled, I think we're going to see, I'm hoping, a resurgence in music videos. As
you think, yeah, you would think.
Was that fun to do? You just kind of losing your mind at a bar, ending up shirtless, kind of like the Iggy Pop performance.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was, what was crazy was like all the people that came in to make that video, like all the extras, the background people. I mean, there were people that drove in from, Missouri and Kansas, just huge local H devoted fans, and it was a beautiful thing to see, like that devotion, and Scott really appreciated it, and they treated everybody really well and gave them a nice meal, and yeah, it was just really fun.
Jumping back to film for a second here, when you did Fahrenheit 451, did you have any idea that you'd be living in a dystopia a couple years later?
Oh Jesus, that's depressing. I think with those kind of books, you like to think that they're cautionary, but of course we'll learn the lesson if everybody reads the book, and we won't do stupid crap like that. But yeah, that kind of hope is dwindling. It seems we're falling right into the pit that Orwell and Bradbury and Huxley painted for us, aren't we? Seems like.
I grew up loving all dystopian type literature and films. Like Escape from New York was a linchpin moment for me as a child.
Yeah. I can't say I grew up loving it, but I sure do appreciate it now. I mean, that's one of the great things about what I do is that, honestly, before I did Fahrenheit 451, I really didn't have much exposure to it. I never finished it in school. I was a horrible student. So, but as an actor, it gives you a real vested interest in trying to understand something and learn about it. So it's one of the benefits of it.
So I mentioned the Elvis role earlier. Is it harder to do a docudrama where you're portraying real people like Gary in Waco, or is there added pressure put on yourself?
Well, it depends. Obviously, Gary Nessner, who I play in Waco, was on set, and me and him couldn't be less alike if we tried. We don't look anything alike. We don't sound alike. And he said, "You know what? I don't care." He's like, "It doesn't matter whether you look like me or sound like me. Most people don't even know what I look like." And honestly, I prefer it that way. So, but when you're playing someone like Elvis, I mean, that was probably the most intimidated I'd ever been to do something. And I actually kind of said no a couple of times. I just didn't I couldn't believe it was a producer, Holly Wiersma. She had produced Bug, and it was her idea. And I thought she was crazy. I said, Holly, this is the craziest idea I've ever heard. She's like, trust me, Michael. And then she finally got me to sign on, and then we couldn't get a Nixon for the longest time. We couldn't get a Nixon. And but finally Kevin Spacey signed on. And then I was just really like having panic attacks. And what really eased my mind was I went to Memphis with Jerry Schilling, who's in the movie is played by Alex Pettyfer. And Jerry we had the most amazing weekend, and he just showed me everything. Took me all around Memphis, took me to all the places. I mean, I went to Graceland off hours. I stood in the bedroom that was Elvis's bedroom when he was a teenager, in what is widely considered to be one of the first housing projects ever built. And you would never know. There's no museum there. You wouldn't even know, except when you go into that room, there's lipstick kisses all over the walls. But you look out that window and it's just totally bleak, just like some crummy road leading to nowhere. And I was like, damn, Elvis stood in here, and this is when he probably started having all his dreams about what he wanted to do. And Jerry said to me, he said, look, there are a lot of people that can sound like my friend. There's a lot of people that look like my friend. There's a lot of people that enjoy pretending to be my friend. But there's really not many people who understand my friend. So that's why I want you to do this. He's like, I don't care if you look like him or you sound like him, pretty much the same way Gary said. But I just want someone to treat him with respect and really try and understand what made him tick, and what it was like to be him. And so I said, well, that's a reasonable assignment. And I got less scared about it.
It's funny. My first time in Memphis, I had similar feelings. I remember driving past Sun Records for the first time, and I had that thought like, oh my God, Elvis, this is where Elvis walked in off the street.
Mm-hmm.
To make music. And even going to Graceland, like I left Graceland thinking, okay, I want to read all about Elvis. I want to catch up. I watched the Comeback special when I came back to Chicago. I read the Peter Guralnick book about Elvis. Like it's amazing how much it floods your brain, and you want to kind of catch up on all that.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's something, it's funny. Sometimes people that are the most popular cultural icons are also the most mysterious. And it's like the thing that we fall in love with or are obsessed with isn't actually the person at all. It's something else. It's an image or a sensation, but it's not that person. And so when you open that door and start investigating, it can lead you to pretty interesting places.
So you've done psychological thrillers, you've done mysteries, docudramas, lots of things that you can add the word noir to. Horror hasn't really been part of your world. Is that, or are there other genres that you kind of want to dive into?
I don't know. It's funny, when we made Bug, Lionsgate tried to promote it as a horror film, which was really upsetting. Because they were releasing Saw at the same time. So they thought, well, our audience for Saw and Bug, that's basically the same audience, right? We'll play like Saw trailers before Bug, and and it just was so wrong-headed. But I mean, horror's tricky. It's like it's tricky to do anything super dynamic with it, I feel like, at this point. Although you see people trying. It was interesting. I saw Hereditary, which everybody was going on about. Now, would you classify that as a horror movie?
I would. And I'd also classify Midsummer as horror.
Yeah.
Same director.
Yeah, so that guy's pretty interesting. I assume if he ever managed to call me up, I might take a look at it. But you know, there's a pretty steep drop off, I think, with horror. Although it's interesting, the Elizabeth Moss Invisible Man, that looked interesting.
The first 10 minutes of that movie are highly stressful. They did a really good job with that, just really intense.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Jordan Peele's doing things with horror. I mean, it's not dead, but innovation is generally welcome in that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, Jordan Peele too. Yeah, everything that guy's doing is interesting. He's trying to bring Twilight Zone back.
Yeah, it's back on the CBS streaming.
Oh, the All Access, right? Yeah,
right.
For somebody in the biz, I watch a surprisingly small amount of film and television. It's kind of embarrassing, honestly. I don't see much of anything,
including your stuff, right? You don't really.
I don't mind. I'm not one of these actors like, oh, I can't watch myself. It's too painful. Like I just think that's silly. But yeah, honestly, I don't know. It just doesn't intrigue me very much. But yeah, I guess it's that old adage, you know, if you like sausage, don't see how they make it.
Exactly. Well, I've been on the radio for 30 years or whatever. I can't listen to myself. Like I know what I did. I'm good. I can walk away from it.
Right. Yeah. It's yeah, exactly.
All right. Before I let you go, I have to ask, the Snyder Cut of Justice League, all of our hopes and dreams are pinned on this one. What do you know?
Oh man, I'll tell you what I know is I feel for my friend Zack Snyder. He had a rough time of it, between the struggles with his family and what he went through with Warner Brothers. Zack is a sweet, kind, gentle, hardworking, super conscientious human being, and I hope that this release gives him some sense of satisfaction or vindication or whatever, because he's such a good person. He deserves better than he's been dealing with.
So Man of Steel was a good experience for you for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that was like I still to this day can't even believe that he called me to do that. I mean, that did not seem like something that was within my reach. But yeah, he got me. He got me in there. So thank God.
All right, Michael Shannon, I'm going to stop streaming on Facebook. Thank you, everybody who's been watching. That's Michael Shannon.